Imagine for a moment that you woke up one day, not just with the usual human worries of bills to pay or errands to run, but instead with a burning question: what is the fate of humanity? This isn't some passing thought, but a force so consuming it drives everything you do. That's the mind of Elon Musk, a man who doesn't just think about the future, but feels an almost visceral responsibility to shape it. And the craziest part, he's convinced that you, me, and the billions of others alive today are living in a moment that determines whether humanity thrives or perishes. Before we dive deeper, let me ask you, have you ever wondered why some people seem to think at a level that feels incomprehensible? It's not just intelligence, it's something deeper. Musk's mind operates on principles that are rare and deeply psychological. But here's the thing, these principles are not just reserved for the world's richest man. They can transform the way you think, too. So let's start peeling back the layers. The first thing to understand about Musk's mind is that it's built around what psychologists call first principles thinking. This isn't just some buzzword, it's a mental model that can rewire how you approach life itself. Most people think in terms of analogy. We compare what we know to what we've seen before, and then make decisions based on those comparisons. It's efficient, but it's also limiting. Musk, on the other hand, strips every problem down to its absolute fundamentals. He doesn't ask, what's the traditional way of doing this? Instead, he asks, what is the actual nature of this problem? What are the undeniable truths, and how can I solve it from scratch? Take Tesla, for example. The auto industry had long assumed that electric cars could never compete with gas-powered vehicles on cost or performance. The batteries were too expensive, the infrastructure too poor. But Musk didn't accept those assumptions. He broke the problem down, asking, what's a battery really? What materials are required? How can we make it cheaper, step by step? And then he scaled this thinking up, creating not just a car company, but an entire ecosystem: gigafactories, renewable energy storage, and even solar solutions. The result? He didn't just build a car, he built a movement. Now, here's the question for you: how often do you approach your life like this? Whether it's your career, your relationships, or your goals, are you thinking in first principles, or are you just following the script society has handed you? Musk's mind reminds us that the most profound breakthroughs in life happen when we're willing to question everything, even the things we take for granted. But here's the catch: this way of thinking isn't easy. It's mentally exhausting. To think in first principles requires focus, discipline, and a willingness to be wrong a lot. And this leads us to another key aspect of Musk's mind: his relationship with failure. Most of us fear failure. We avoid it, hide from it, and when it happens, we let it define us. But Musk, he doesn't just tolerate failure, he embraces it. Think about SpaceX. In its early days, the company was on the brink of collapse. 3 rocket launches failed in spectacular fashion, burning through hundreds of millions of dollars. Any rational person would have walked away, but Musk didn't. Why? Because he saw failure not as a dead end, but as data. There's a lesson here for all of us. Too often, we let failure become a reflection of who we are. We think, I'm not good enough, or this wasn't meant to be, but Musk's mindset flips the script. To him, failure is simply feedback. It's a signal telling you what didn't work so you can try again, smarter and stronger. Imagine how your life would change if you adopted this mindset. What risks would you take? What possibilities would open up if you stopped fearing failure and started seeing it as your greatest teacher? And yet, Musk's resilience isn't just about grit. It's also deeply rooted in his ability to think long-term. This is another psychological trait that sets him apart. Most of us are wired for short-term rewards. We want the promotion, the paycheck, the immediate validation. But Musk is playing a different game. He's thinking not in years, but in decades or even centuries. When he talks about colonizing Mars, he's not just fantasizing about some sci-fi dream. He genuinely believes that humanity's survival depends on becoming a multi-planetary species. And here's the mind-blowing part: he's willing to dedicate his entire life to that vision, knowing full well he may never live to see it realized. This kind of long-term thinking requires an extraordinary level of conviction. It means sacrificing comfort and certainty in the present for the possibility of something greater in the future. And it's not just about dreaming big. It's about taking action every single day, even when the odds are stacked against you. Think about your own life. What's the vision that drives you? Are you living for short-term wins, or are you building something that will outlast you? But here's where things get even more fascinating. Musk's mind isn't just about logic and strategy, it's also deeply emotional. Despite his reputation as a cold, calculating figure, Musk's decisions are often driven by a profound sense of empathy. He's not building electric cars or rockets just for the sake of innovation. He's doing it because he genuinely cares about humanity's future. He sees the existential threats we face: climate change, resource depletion, even the possibility of AI turning against us, and he feels a moral obligation to act. This emotional connection to a higher purpose is what gives Musk his unrelenting drive. And it's something we can all learn from. Too often, we get caught up in the grind of daily life, losing sight of the bigger picture. But when you have a purpose, a mission that's bigger than yourself, it fuels you in ways you can't imagine. It gives you the courage to take risks, to endure setbacks, and to keep going when things get tough. So, let's pause for a moment. What's your purpose? What's the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning, that makes you excited to be alive? If you don't know the answer, that's okay. But maybe it's time to start asking the question. Now that we've explored some of the foundational aspects of Musk's thinking, his ability to break problems down to first principles, his resilience in the face of failure, and his long-term vision, let's go further. Because here's the truth: Musk's mind is not just a product of intellect. It's also a product of his psychology, his ability to navigate emotions, and his willingness to embrace chaos. Let's talk about chaos for a moment. Most of us crave stability. We want certainty, routine, and a sense of control in our lives. But Musk thrives in chaos. Think about his workload for a second. He's simultaneously running Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, the Boring Company, and now even X, formerly known as Twitter. Each of these ventures comes with its own set of massive challenges, from production delays to public scrutiny to the very real possibility of financial ruin. And yet, Musk seems to thrive in this storm. How? It comes down to what psychologists call cognitive flexibility. This is the ability to switch between different modes of thinking and adapt to new information without breaking down. Musk's mind is like a hyper-tuned machine, constantly processing inputs from multiple domains and recalibrating as needed. One moment, he's in a meeting about Tesla's supply chain; the next, he's discussing rocket trajectories at SpaceX. And while most people would crumble under this level of complexity, Musk seems to grow stronger. Here's the lesson for us: life is inherently chaotic. No matter how much we try to plan or control, unexpected challenges will always arise. The key is not to resist the chaos, but to embrace it. To train your mind to adapt, to pivot, and to find clarity even in the midst of uncertainty. Musk's ability to do this isn't just a product of his intelligence, it's a skill he has honed through years of practice. And you can do the same. Start small. When life throws you a curveball, instead of reacting emotionally, take a step back. Ask yourself, what's the opportunity here? How can I turn this challenge into an advantage? But here's where things get even more interesting. While Musk thrives in chaos, he also has an uncanny ability to focus. This might sound like a contradiction, but it's not. The secret lies in his ability to compartmentalize. Imagine your brain as a series of tabs on a computer. Most of us have dozens of tabs open at once, constantly jumping between tasks and thoughts. Musk, on the other hand, has mastered the art of closing all the tabs except the one that matters most. When he's working on a problem, he's all in. No distractions, no multitasking, just pure, unfiltered focus. And this is where the concept of deep work comes in. Coined by author Cal Newport, deep work is the ability to focus intensely on a cognitively demanding task without distractions. Musk embodies this principle to an extreme degree. For example, when SpaceX was racing to develop the Falcon 1 rocket, Musk reportedly worked 100-hour weeks, personally reviewing designs and calculations to ensure success. This level of focus is not for the faint of heart, but it's a reminder of what's possible when you eliminate distractions and commit fully to your goals. So here's a challenge for you: the next time you're working on something important, try going all in. Turn off your phone, close your social media apps, set a timer for 90 minutes and focus 100% on the task at hand. You might be surprised at how much you can accomplish when you give your mind the space to work deeply. But Musk's focus isn't just about productivity. It's also about his ability to align his actions with his values. And this brings us to another fascinating aspect of his psychology: his willingness to take extreme risks. Most of us are risk-averse by nature. We want security, stability, and a sense of safety. But Musk seems to operate on a completely different wavelength. He's willing to bet everything: his time, his money, even his reputation, on the things he believes in. Take the early days of Tesla and SpaceX, for example. After selling PayPal, Musk made hundreds of millions of dollars. He could have retired comfortably, living a life of luxury. But instead, he poured nearly all of his fortune into two companies that, at the time, seemed like impossible bets. Electric cars were considered a niche market, and private space exploration was seen as little more than a fantasy. Musk didn't just risk his money, he risked his entire future. If both companies had failed, he would have been left with nothing. So why does he take such extreme risks? The answer lies in his mindset. Musk doesn't see risk the way most people do. To him, the greater risk is not trying. He understands that the only way to achieve something truly extraordinary is to be willing to fail spectacularly. And this is a lesson we can all learn from. How often do we hold ourselves back because we're afraid of what might go wrong? How many opportunities do we miss because we're too focused on the potential downsides? Musk's life is a reminder that the greatest rewards often come from the greatest risks. But here's the thing: Musk doesn't take risks blindly. His decisions are calculated, grounded in data and logic. This is another key aspect of his psychology: his ability to balance intuition with analysis. While he's deeply analytical, he also trusts his gut. He's not afraid to make bold decisions, even when the numbers don't fully add up. For example, when Tesla decided to build its gigafactories, many analysts thought it was a reckless move. But Musk trusted his vision. He saw the long-term potential and was willing to take the leap. And this brings us to one of the most profound lessons we can learn from Musk's mind: the importance of having a vision. Everything he does, whether it's building electric cars, colonizing Mars, or developing brain-computer interfaces, is driven by a clear, compelling vision of the future. This vision isn't just about innovation or profit, it's about creating a better world. A world where humanity can thrive, not just survive. So let me ask you, what's your vision? What's the future you want to create? not just for yourself, but for the world around you. If you don't have an answer, that's okay, but maybe it's time to start dreaming bigger. Because here's the truth: the world needs more people who are willing to think like Musk. People who are willing to take risks, embrace chaos, and work tirelessly to turn their dreams into reality. One of the most fascinating aspects of Elon Musk's mind is his relentless curiosity. Think about it: when was the last time you asked a truly profound question? Musk's life is essentially built on one question after another, each one sparking a new venture, a new solution, or a new way of thinking. For example, he didn't just accept that space travel should be left to governments. He asked, why can't rockets be reusable? He didn't just accept that humanity is limited to Earth. He asked, why can't we live on other planets? And he didn't just look at cars as vehicles. He asked, why can't they be electric, autonomous, and sustainable? This childlike curiosity is something many of us lose as we grow older. We get caught up in routines, responsibilities, and the expectations of society. But Musk's mind is a reminder that curiosity is not just a trait, it's a skill. It's something you can cultivate, and when you do, it becomes a powerful tool for innovation and growth. Here's a practical takeaway: start asking better questions. Instead of accepting the status quo, challenge it. Ask why things are the way they are and how they could be different. You don't need to build a rocket company to apply this mindset. It could be as simple as asking how you can improve your daily routine or how you can solve a problem at work in a completely new way. Now, let's connect this curiosity to something even deeper: Musk's ability to dream big. Most of us are limited by what we believe is possible. Our goals are often shaped by the constraints we've internalized from society, our upbringing, or our own fears. But Musk doesn't think this way. He operates on the edge of what seems impossible: colonizing Mars, building a neural interface to merge humans with AI, electrifying the global transportation system. These are ideas that most people would dismiss as unrealistic, yet Musk treats them as not only achievable but necessary. Why does he think this way? It comes down to what psychologists call a growth mindset. This is the belief that abilities, intelligence, and even the boundaries of human achievement can be expanded through effort and learning. Musk seems to take this idea to an extreme. He doesn't just believe in his own potential, he believes in the potential of humanity as a whole. And this belief fuels his willingness to tackle problems that others won't even touch. So here's a challenge for you: what's the biggest, most audacious dream you have? The one that scares you because it feels too big, too impossible. What would happen if you stopped questioning whether it's realistic and started asking how you could make it happen? Musk's mind teaches us that the biggest breakthroughs often come from the boldest dreams. But here's where things get even more intriguing. Musk's dreams aren't just about him, they're about us. At his core, Musk is driven by a deep sense of purpose. He's not building companies for the sake of profit or personal glory. He's building them because he believes they're essential for the survival and flourishing of humanity. This sense of purpose is what keeps him going, even in the face of overwhelming challenges. When Tesla was on the brink of bankruptcy, when SpaceX rockets were exploding, when critics were calling him a fool, he kept pushing forward. Why? Because he believed the stakes were too high to give up. And this brings us to one of the most powerful lessons we can learn from Musk: the importance of having a mission. When you're driven by something bigger than yourself, it gives you a kind of psychological armor. It helps you endure setbacks, criticism, and even failure, because you're not just working for yourself, you're working for a cause. So let me ask you, what's your mission? What's the thing that matters so deeply to you that you'd be willing to sacrifice for it? If you don't know yet, that's okay. But finding your mission could be one of the most transformative things you ever do. Now, let's shift gears and talk about something that's often misunderstood about Musk: his relationship with pressure. Most of us avoid pressure. We see it as something negative, something to be minimized. But Musk seems to embrace pressure, even seek it out. He willingly puts himself in situations where the stakes are astronomically high, where failure is not just a possibility but a constant presence. Why? Because he understands that pressure is a catalyst for growth. Neuroscience backs this up. When we're under pressure, our brains release adrenaline and other chemicals that sharpen our focus, heighten our senses, and push us to perform at our best. Of course, too much pressure can lead to burnout, but Musk seems to have found a balance. He uses pressure as a tool to drive himself and his teams to achieve things that would otherwise seem impossible. Here's a practical takeaway for you: instead of avoiding pressure, learn to manage it. Start by reframing how you think about it. Instead of seeing pressure as a threat, see it as an opportunity, a chance to grow, to learn, and to push your limits. And remember, the key is not to eliminate pressure, but to build resilience so you can thrive under it. Finally, let's talk about one of the most controversial aspects of Musk's psychology: his willingness to be misunderstood. Most of us crave approval. We want to be liked, to fit in, to avoid conflict. But Musk doesn't operate this way. He's willing to take unpopular stances, to face ridicule, and to stand firm in his beliefs, even when the world is against him. This isn't just stubbornness, it's a deep commitment to his principles. Think about it: when Musk announced Tesla's mission to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, many people laughed. When he revealed his plans for SpaceX, critics called him delusional. And when he took over Twitter, the backlash was fierce. But Musk didn't back down. He understands that being a leader, especially a visionary leader, means being willing to stand alone sometimes. It means prioritizing what's right over what's easy or popular. And this is a lesson we can all apply to our own lives. How often do we hold back our true thoughts, ideas, or dreams because we're afraid of being judged? How often do we conform to others' expectations instead of staying true to ourselves? Musk's mind reminds us that greatness often requires courage, the courage to be different, to take risks, and to stand by your convictions. So here's the final takeaway: the mind of Elon Musk isn't something magical or unattainable. It's a product of choices to think differently, to act boldly, and to live with purpose. And these are choices we can all make. You don't have to build rockets or revolutionize industries to apply these principles. You just have to be willing to question the status quo, to dream big, and to work relentlessly toward your vision. Because at the end of the day, the mind of Elon Musk is a reminder of what's possible when you refuse to accept limits, when you decide, instead, to create your own.